Okay, so this is Grace Francisco, and I'm here for Channel 9 today with two developer evangelists, one from the East and one from the West. So, as East meets West, tell me who you are. Starting with our guest from the East.
Alphabetical order. My name is Asli Bilgin. I'm a developer evangelist in New York. Basically what I do is cover the industry, financial services, and our enterprise accounts in that industry, which makes sense because I am in New York, and help them decide on the proper technologies to build a solution, whether it's pure Microsoft or interoperability with other technologies, and build that solution in a way that's strategic so that when Microsoft comes out with another version of our product, that they are ready for it in the next 18 months or so.
Cool. And from the West, we have...
I'm Lynn Langit. I'm a developer evangelist with the MSDN team for Southern California, and my primary responsibility is to educate developers in our emerging technologies. For example, this quarter I'm talking about Silverlight, Link, and WCF to large developer audiences.
Cool. And how long have you guys been with Microsoft?
Almost 5 years, coming up in next early winter.
And I've been on board for about a year.
Okay. And so a lot of people say, evangelist. What the hell is an evangelist? What is it really? And how did you get here?
What is an evangelist?
What's an evangelist?
We don't really know. It is whatever you want it to be.
What do you guys want it to be?
Yeah. Well, honestly, when people ask me my role at the company, I actually tend to describe what I do. If I gave you my title, that could be anything, and it's actually different for you, different for me, different for any evangelist in the company. It is what you make it. If you see a need or a demand in a certain area, whether it's just pure technology or whether it's just on understanding strategy in general and in business sense, you can go ahead and meet that demand and follow whatever your passions are, whatever the passions of your audience and your community is.
Yeah, very much so. Even though I'm charged generally with talking about new developer technologies, because I have an expertise in BI and SharePoint, I've been doing quite a bit of work over the web, webcasts, and live presentations on those topics, and there's been a lot of demand for it.
Yeah, I guess like what you could say is evangelists, if you're going to do like some criteria, let's do bullet points. So
okay.
One would be passion. You have to be passionate. Another?
Another one would be you have to be interesting and exciting. No boredom allowed.
You have to be able to communicate very well. Communicate in the way, not just understanding what your message is or what you're trying to convey, but understand what people are looking for, what's the questions, and be able to communicate the answers in a way that is in the language of your audience. So communication.
Yeah, to follow on to that, you have to be particularly good at listening. You might think that you have to be an expert at speaking, and yeah, you have to be a pretty engaging speaker, but you have to also be able to ask good questions and listen for the answers.
And lastly, I think you have to think that you're really funny. You don't have to actually be funny.
Well, you're funny. I'm funny.
You can be funny, or you could think you're funny. Well, more importantly, it's what you think of yourself, not really what they think. If no one's laughing as long as you are, then you're having a good time.
I know, that's true.
As long as I'm having a good time.
And you guys generally talk to developers in your audiences, is that right?
Yes. My audiences are... I'm a broad reach evangelist, so the more the better. My typical event is a couple hundred. My recent events actually have had the largest audiences in the United States, which is really exciting. I spoke to nearly 500 developers in Irvine, California on my last event, and we're hoping to top that on the next one, so the larger the better.
And so what do you guys think about that being, obviously you're both female, and neither of you frankly look like geeks. So you're walking into this audience of 100, 200, whatever number of people that are all a bunch of developers, and most of them are probably men. How does that feel, and how do you, how does that work for you guys?
Well, the ratio is in our favor. Well, this is how it works. We're going to pause.
Not going to pause that one.
It works great. We love it. No problems with that. Actually, let me take that a little seriously. There are some challenges with that. One example is one of the larger audiences I spoke for when I first started presenting. Actually, it was like right before I came to Microsoft, but I was working at Dell and I was doing a launch event for Office, and this was in Bangalore in India. And they never saw me because I hadn't arrived yet. And by my name, Asli, they thought I was a man. And so I get there and they're like, oh, she's not a man. and we can't have her present. The audience was pure male. There's, I think, maybe 1 or 2 women. It was about 1,000 to 1,200 people in the audience. And they asked me not to present. They asked if someone could substitute for me. What I did at the time, which I wouldn't do anymore, but at that time I put a suit on, made it very severe, pulled my hair back. Yeah, I became a man. It was like a Victor Victoria. But the race? No, just kidding. So I did that. I looked at the pictures later. I'm like, oh, it doesn't even look like me. I wouldn't recommend that. It doesn't really work. But that was something that I had to do, and it was a challenge at the time because I thought that was the need in order to be seen as credible. In the end, my scores were higher than all the men in terms of the evaluation. So obviously, I was valued more in the content of my presentation. I don't know if it's slicking back my hair helped or not, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. So that is a challenge. But since that, I just see myself as me, and I think more about what I have to say than what I look like and what the vehicle is in presenting it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the sort of the healthiest thing is you just sort of have to have a good sense of humor.
Sure.
I mean, generally it's going to be the content, the quality of the content, but you will get these sort of funny situations. I was talking to you before we started that one day I got a marriage proposal, and I mean, you get all kinds of silly things that happen, and you just sort of roll with it. But generally it's about the content and the quality of the content and connecting with the audience, and that's kind of the same regardless of the audience.
So, how did you guys get here? I mean, how do you end up at Microsoft as a developer evangelist? Starting with you, Asli.
Well, when I was born,
See, evangelists like to talk.
Yes, I was born with a tooth, and they say that's a sign of genius. No.
Were you really born with a tooth?
I was actually.
My nephew was too. It's very rare.
Really? And Einstein was, and all these like very smart people. That's why I'm an evangelist. No, actually, I come from a finance background. I worked in investment banking. I worked purely, but it's math, right? Math is math. So what I would say to people looking to see if this is something for them, if you're doing anything related to math or mathematics or even music as math, we were talking about that earlier, this is something that you would pursue. The way I got here, this was I guess, to nutshell it, I was doing all this finance work, and it was Excel, and I was doing all these crazy macros, and I was learning by hitting F1, because this is the time when it was 1994, and the internet is just gray and black, and mostly just research articles, not much on technology at the time, and learned how to do VBA, and then someone comes over and says, you're writing code? Okay. You can make a lot more money if you get hired by a software company? I'm like, okay. So I came and I started doing work with IBM at the time and ended up learning how to program by just, doing, I mean, if you have a passion for it, that's how you get in. And through that, eventually got to a point where I started writing more and more articles and books on this technology, and then came to Microsoft, and now I
So wait a minute, you learned via F1, you didn't take any classes, you didn't...
No, I didn't take any classes, I'm not educated in it. I have zero computer science background, I have an economics background, and now with the advent of the internet, is that what they call it now? When you install that on your computer, you can learn so much more. So yeah, with the internet,
you are funny, aren't you?
I think I'm funny. Yeah, but how did you become an evangelist?
Oh, again, a roundabout way. I went to school for languages and linguistics, and I wanted to be a UN translator, which was a great goal, except for one little impediment, the fact that I was from West Fargo, North Dakota. Most people from that kind of area don't go directly to the UN. So I took a very circuitous route, did some stuff in business, and then decided to start a family and didn't want to work at an executive level in business and wanted to do something that would reconcile with having a small child, so I started in technical training. And I kind of went a different way than you. I went through the certification path, got all the premier certifications, was teaching this stuff, kept wanting to learn more, started writing some code someday, kind of the same idea. Somebody told me, go, you can make a lot of money, and you can't make a lot of money.
It's money. It's money.
That's right. It's all about the money. So,
how long did you have to do your certification process before you did your first training class?
I started on the network side. I actually am really broad across Microsoft. I have all premier certifications, so I do MCSE, MCDBA, MCSD. I think the initial process took about a year to get into the networking side. And then I took SQL as an elective, and frankly, I'm a database geek. I mean, I love SQL. I love everything to do with SQL. We were talking about it earlier. I love BI. I love data mining algorithms. The more mathematical and challenging, bring it on.
She knows more acronyms than exist.
Wait, tell us about that seminar again that you went to.
I was at the BI conference, and you know you're a geek when the product group person can't show up for the presentation, and the actual developer of the BI algorithm comes and talks, and you're sitting in the session, and everybody is just or snoozing, because it's just so deeply technical. But you're sitting there going, yeah, and writing it down and going, this is so cool, and I get this, and I get to talk to him about it. Why don't you do that? So, what makes you geeky?
Well, considering that I code for fun,
do you really?
I think,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of online auctions, and I don't like their engine, so I rewrote that engine on my own. Yeah, I'm still writing it. It's just getting bigger and bigger. I have all these. I think I have about 60 tables, which is a lot for a database. So I'm doing it for fun, and it's actually the way I think is database oriented. Like when I think of the books and the quotes that I know, I categorize them, and for me that's all relational modeling, and I'm building an ER diagram in my head of all the quotes I know, the information I know, the vocabulary, literature references is all like multi-dimensional to me. So I think this way. Unfortunately.
And this is what you do on the weekends.
Yeah, you know what I'm living here. Yeah, this is what I do for fun. Exactly.
Cool. So we already talked about what you do. So is that the geekiest thing that you guys really do? Is that what you would classify?
Do we have to admit it? I mean, I read books on discrete mathematics for fun. I hate to say this.
Do you really?
Yeah, I love math. I just I love math. Matter of fact, I'm considering going back to school and pursuing a graduate degree and actually trying to get into research because I just love math that much.
Yeah, it's true. I'm actually studying for my GMAT again because I just feel like studying for it and learning the math again. It's for no reason. I mean, hopefully I will go to school.
Yeah. But math is just the best.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Crossword puzzles, anything that's just problem solving. Like if you put let's say a dozen things in front of me of multiple colors, I'll start organizing them by color. Like because it's math, right? You're starting to build like some kind of, I guess, algorithm or pattern matching. So so it's a fun thing to do. If there's people that are watching this that are interested in crossword puzzles, math, music, languages, we both found that we have a passion for languages. That's another reason to get involved with software because it's just really finding patterns and just delving into it, and it's endless.
Sure.
And math is always right.
It's easy.
Unlike humans.
I know, it's like relaxing, isn't it? It's relaxing. You put the classical music,
relaxing.
you go start
There's
writing
always
code,
an answer,
right.
unlike life.
Yes.
That's a good point, actually.
Yes, it's Boolean. You go to the Boolean world.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot. Yeah.
So what do you have to say to all the young women that are out there that say, I don't want to be a geek. I don't want to live in a world that's just geeky or where I'm just sitting at my computer at a desk and typing away on my keyboard all day long, or I don't know if math's for me. What do you guys have to say to the girls that are struggling with this idea of going into this industry?
There is something that a friend of mine, Frank from Australia, fellow Microsoft,
Frank.
He's
Frank.
Fun. He was talking. I was at conferences you always get these extra large T-shirts that you never.
Yeah, I know.
You can't wear them, right?
You use it to wash the car.
You can wash the car, or if you're going to be a geek, you can be a geek chic, and you can just cut them up. Frank came up with this expression, geek chic. So it can be chic to be a geek, and you can actually customize the shirts and make them fitted, just a couple stitches with the hotel sewing kit, and it's true. That's what I do with them. So when we're saying geek, we're saying in a self-depreciating way, but in a way that we actually think it's cool. We think it's like lovely to be able to be excited and passionate about technology, and whether it's something that's considered geeky, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're introverted or you're not sharing this or you're not passionate about it. It's not like holding up and like
hey, you guys are sitting there with these black rimmed glasses with tape on it.
Oh, black rimmed glasses are cool though.
But not with the tape.
No, not with the tape.
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, you can make a darn good living. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, you really, really can, and there's a lot of opportunity. Plus, there's so much creativity, and I think for me that was sort of the big thing. Like, oh, you're going to go into programming? It's so boring. It is the ultimate creative sort of thing because you're building something, and you can, envision the solution, translate the requirements, and then, build something. I mean, it's just very satisfying to do. And it's not just sitting in front of a computer. I mean, there's all kinds of devices that need, computing. There's so many ways to do this that it's not just typing code at a computer. There are many other ways to build solutions. So think more broadly, I guess I would say. And another sort of thing to think about if you're thinking about this kind of career is if you're a curious person. If you, I always like to say, you like to build the IKEA furniture, right? You like to look inside the car engine and see how it actually works, then you're going to like this because you're getting into the guts and you're kind of making it and seeing how it works and taking it apart. And if you like that, it's a great industry. Yeah. And it's always new. That's another thing. I'm easily bored. Like I have ADD since I was born. I think you might too, actually. What? So if you get bored, I mean, there's just always something. It's a great industry.
And the thing is, I mean, being in this industry doesn't mean that you have to be just a developer or just a tester, at your computer all day long coding or testing away. What you guys do is you're out in front of customers a lot and talking to them. You're not just tied to your computer all day long. So that interaction, I think, makes life really exciting because I used to be in the field as well. And so people don't always know that there's this range of different types of technical roles that you can have, and it's not just about being in a deep, dark cave all day long coding away and typing. So
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned creativity because that's something that probably we should highlight a lot more. It's, I guess, like, if you love Legos, there's endless possibilities. I love Legos. Yeah. If Lego's watching this, send me Legos. But, I mean, there's just endless, like when I was, still actually, when I build with them, I make things like banks and things that aren't, like the coins slide down the roof. You use roof Legos, they make beautiful chutes for your coins. Anyway, banks, I build banks, Wall Street uses them. Lego built banks, that's how I build software. But to think of Legos, you can do any kind of building. It's like that's what architecture is, that's what software architecture is. So you have all these components, and as you said, it's not limited to PC anymore, it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous. So technology is in your credit card, technology is in your phone, and it's everywhere, in your cars, etc. So like next week I have to demo a car, right? So it's not really showing me in front of a computer. I'm actually in a car putting my phone in there and talking with voice recognition. So yeah, it's a very creative and very out there type of world, not a whole.
And it is totally gratifying, especially in software when you build something, you can see results like immediately. Yeah. That's what I loved about being a developer when I was doing a lot of that. And it's just immediate gratification. I loved that.
And one of the things, too, that has been interesting to me joining Microsoft so recently, I had this sort of perception that when you got a role at Microsoft, it was, corporate, and you sort of had to sort of stick to the blueprint and do exactly what it was. And I have to say that I hired as an entrepreneur. I ran my own business before I started, and I said I really want to continue this entrepreneurial spirit. And I've had really great support from my manager, and I've been able to continue work on some nonprofit projects that have kept my sort of hand in actual building, which is very, very important to me and something that I don't want to get away from, being an evangelist. And it's been really great. It's actually exceeded my expectations coming on board because I had a certain perception of what working for a large company would be like.
Sure.
And it hasn't been, and particularly in this role, in the evangelist role. And I think anybody that's watching that's thinking about this should really take that to heart because it's an important part of my job.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, if you think about it, the evangelist role is very, as you said, entrepreneurial. So you're being an entrepreneur, creating your own model, and having the full resources of 80,000 person company. Yeah. So you have all these resources, you have all this support. I watched a panel, a conference last week. They called it they took entrepreneurial innovation and made it entrevenation or some new word out of it. But that's what it is. So you can basically run your own business with full support and health benefits.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
It's a good thing. And one thing I actually wanted to say, this is slightly off topic, but you don't have to necessarily be a technologist in order to love this technology. My mother, who was afraid about, I guess 7 years ago, afraid to actually put the power button on because she thought the computer would break, is actually writing pseudo code, being able to like bring in some macros into Excel and bring in data from her online auctions, etc. So anyone can do it, and it's getting much friendlier and friendlier. So
Sure.
it's not you're writing code, but it doesn't look like code anymore. So you're automating your business, and just even programming names into your phone. That's a form of code itself. You're actually adding new.
Well, and we have new tools like Popfly. You know,
Yeah.
I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she just built a mashup with Popfly.
Yeah, what
One
is
of my-
Popfly?
For the audience who doesn't know, it's a developer tool for non-developers. It kind of is similar conceptually to like a Lego Mindstorm, so where it's a series of visual blocks where you're writing code but don't look like you're writing code, but yet it's powerful because you can open up the blocks and you can actually see the code and write your own blocks, and it's awesome. www.popfly.com, and we just opened it up so we no longer require registration or invite to work with the product. So we're working on this sort of problem of making coding more accessible, and that's an area that's particularly interesting to me, and it really makes the job fun.
What's the site URL again for Popfly?
www.popfly.com.
Cool.
It's under here. Popfly. You can do overlays.
So, do you both have online presence? Lynn, you blog. Asli, do you blog as well?
I am about to do a whole series of videos that will be on the ASP.NET site. That will be my video blogging. My online presence is more video. So I've done stuff for CNET, and I've done stuff for a company called Total Training. You can view them online.
And yeah, I have it's a big part of my job actually. So I have a weekly show on Channel 9. It's called Geek Speak, and the premise of the show is to have developers learn from working developers. So it's a little bit different twist on 9, and it's been really popular. So I'd encourage people to check it out. It's just under Geek Speak. And then my blog is blogs.mstn.com/SoCalDevGal, because that's sort of my brand, SoCalDevGal.
So what are the positives and negatives of having an online presence these days?
Cyber stalking.
Have you had that?
Yeah, that's why I actually don't have I'm going to come back out again. But yeah, there's some very interesting people out there.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that. I think way to balance that is to just purely talk about professional stuff and try to
I disagree.
You do?
I actually disagree, because I was an anti-blogger before I started, for that reason. I did not have a blog until I joined Microsoft, because I had a concern about that. And I did quite a bit of looking at blogs to kind of try to understand what was interesting and all that. And my sort of take on it is that it's 75% professional and 25% personal, but you carefully think about what part you expose in order to be appropriate for the audience. And it's been sort of a learning for me, but it's been interesting because my blog has gone from 0 to about 100,000 hits a month in about 4 or 5 months. So I think I've kind of got the right place. Now, as I've moved into some of the other social networking areas, I moved kind of silly. I'm a Facebooker, right? So I had some sort of strange things there. And it's definitely a learning process, but I think probably more in my job than yours. It's really a part of the job because it's reach, and that includes online. Sure. So the learning for me was sort of how to do that in an appropriate way, and I'm still working on it.
And I think in general, in blogging in general, there's still we haven't got to a balanced place yet between traditional press, the credibility of bloggers, some of the A-list bloggers kind of going off the top sometimes, So I think it'll get there. It's I don't think it's quite there yet. It's not quite at a mature level in terms of how it's communicated. But I guess you just achieve a balance that makes sense for you.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you,
any
Grace.
parting comments or words you want to share with the audience?
We're tired of looking at rooms full of men.
Wait a minute. Speak for yourself. No. But we do actually want more women in this industry.
Yeah, come on.
She made a funny point today. She was saying, did you notice at every conference there's no line to the women's room?
There is never
I'm like,
a line.
Actually, I kind of like that.
But no, in all seriousness, we want to be inclusive. I mean, we want more people who may not have thought about evangelism as a career to think about it, whether they're men or women. We want more people to just consider this, because it's actually more fun than it looks. I guess that's really my parting message. It's a lot more fun than you'd think from the outside. It's a cool gig.
It is cool. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.